Hey!
This is JJ and Alex.
I made a name for myself, I told you I won't be denied.
As you wrap up your day, it's time to get your fix of the teams you live for and the sports you love. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome on in. It's a Monday. It is JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Thanks for being with us today, everybody. Happy Monday to you. Happy start of the week. Happy March. It is the geological start of, or meteorological, what is it? Which is it the
I'm going to leave you on an island here.
astrological, the astrological start to the, which one is it? It's spring. Just call it spring. And I know we're supposed to get some, that March rain and some snow mixed in there because we were fooled a little bit. Was it 68 yesterday at your house? It was like
I don't know
mid-60s.
what it was, but man, it felt good.
Yeah, man.
That was a big tease, Mother Nature.
I know.
You really messed with us over the weekend because that was an incredible weekend.
It was the meteorological start to spring. But it's not the calendar start because that's March 21st. But apparently, what happened is, and here's what's great: it will never be. The sun will set after 6 o'clock now until October 29th. So enjoy it, everybody. The days are getting longer. Everything's great. Everything's amazing, and it's getting warm. I played golf this weekend on an actual golf course in the warmth. It was amazing. I didn't play well, but it was amazing to be out there. So that's all that matters. JJ, what's up, man? How was your weekend?
I
good?
got some sun. I did a little yard work.
Yeah.
Because, hey, it's that time of year.
What are you doing yard work? Like, what, are you one of those guys that preps your lawn before spring hits and you're like,
yeah,
you're out there aerating?
Because
what were you doing?
If you don't, it'll get ruined.
No,
that's the part about taking on a house. And you want a yard, okay? Like there's this.
You did yard work.
You get pulled into this. It's some kind of scam. I feel.
Oh, it is.
Like, you should buy a house. Yeah, that sounds good. I buy a house. Oh, by the way, you have to take care of the house.
No.
You have to do this, this, and this. Oh, and by the way, you need landscaping. Oh.
Did you start part one of the 6-part fertilizer deal? Is that what you did?
It's coming soon.
Oh man,
it's coming soon.
That's the racket right there.
Yeah, if you're on the IFA program,
by part number 7,
you gotta
apply this weekend.
Go
no,
get your
thank
stuff.
you. Come
go
on,
get your stuff. You got to take care of your yard, man.
Hey, producer
It's
Alex.
an investment.
Producer Alex, how's everything? Everything good over there in your world?
Everything good. I also got a little bit of sun this weekend.
You did,
but you didn't landscape like me.
I didn't landscape, but I went out and Rouse Lake had a 2 p.m. kickoff, and so I was out there enjoying the sun.
Is football currently live?
Football is back to being live.
Yeah, that's good news.
That's a good update.
RSL doesn't suck anymore.
Well, for now. Things can turn on a dime.
Yes,
Look, we're just so used to our local teams right now kind of being in this weird limbo, right? So
the bar's always low.
Our
expectations are always low.
RSL, please don't be those guys. Please just be right there. I know there's a lot going on. I know
RSL just needs to count on the other team scoring goals for them. That's the secret.
Oh, that's never good. The own goal situation? Come on.
It worked out on Saturday.
All right. By the way, our program is always brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar the perfect protein bar. So let's get things kicked off with the cut right here, top of the hour. We've got college basketball in a very interesting spot here in the state of Utah, and it is crunch time for all your local teams. So let's jump right in here. Let's get going. Some college basketball talk top the show. Let's get going with the cut.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And, of course, this portion of the show brought to you by Trajan Wealth, TRAJAN Wealth.com for all your trusted local needs in retirement. It's TrajanWealth.com. All right, let's get going here. BYU over the weekend, moving up in the polls. They beat West Virginia, and it was a slaughtering. I know it was a weird first half. BYU didn't make a three-pointer in the first half. They went into the half with the lead, but it was, I think, one of their lowest scoring halves of the entire season.
They didn't make a three.
Didn't make a three-pointer, and they get themselves, I don't know what it was, 25 points by the half. Anyway, they blow up in the second half. They end up
52 points
pulling away. That's a huge second half. Have you seen Duke's numbers, by the way, over the past 7 games? I think they've averaged just under 100 points, 98.9 points a game. I mean, in the last 6 games. If you're one of these people that looks at what these trends are going into the tournament, I know everybody's talking about number 1 overall seed and who's going to win it and blah blah blah. But I'm telling you, watch out for Cooper Flagg putting his fingerprints on this Duke program.
Ranked second in the country.
Number 2 in the country. BYU moves up to 23rd in the poll, and that's going to be a fun, nice matchup between 2 AP-ranked Iowa State number 9, BYU 23, going into Ames. If you're a BYU fan, do you have hopes that this thing? You don't need it, is the thing, but you do want that double bye in the Big 12 tournament, and that'd be the only way to be able to get it.
If you win in Ames and you beat Utah on Saturday, BYU's the 4 seed. Isn't that crazy?
That's bonkers.
Especially when you consider where they started.
But where does that move the seed line to? I know Lenardi, when he comes out with his stuff tomorrow. Yeah, I mean,
they'll be a 6 seed.
And it would be a very different 6 seed from last year's 6 seed, right? The what you want to be doing is playing your best basketball, which is what BYU is doing right now. And what's crazy is they're not getting the best. They're not getting their best out of Yegor Demon. I mean, you're still seeing a guy who's super young and raw. You know where the talent is, but they're relying on Richie Saunders, who is, again, the Big 12 player of the week. Is that the second week in a row? He's a Big 12 player of the week.
2 weeks in a row.
So, I mean, BYU's in some spot now that they weren't last year, even though they were trending up last year. They ended up a 6 seed last year going into the tournament, but it's a very different feel for this team. How about Utah going to Arizona State and blowing the doors off of Bobby Hurley's guys? Is that the nail in the coffin for Bobby Hurley at the head coach there?
I think Bobby Hurley is going to go the way of Craig Smith here shortly.
You've lost the locker room.
They'll at least wait till the end of the season to do it.
But a 26-point win for the Utes, massive for them.
Yeah, they've definitely lost the locker room there.
And it was a good win for the Utes. They needed to have that good. I think that vibe at the end of the year to be able to have, a couple of big wins going into the offseason, whatever that looks like for them. I don't know what the postseason tournaments even look like anymore in college basketball. I know there's the NIT still. Do we still have 4 tiers of COVID? COVID was not good for a lot of things.
No, it wasn't.
But you know what? It culled the herd when it came to the crap tournaments that you get in college basketball.
Rest in peace, CBI.
What about the CIT?
There's so many of them. There's so many 3-letter initials. I couldn't tell you how many are still operating.
And I don't know who the coaches were who were like, hey, you guys, we're a 3 seed in the CIT.
Oh,
and you're like,
sell.
We do not want to have this thing going on.
You have to pay to get into those tournaments.
Not only that, you've got to open up your if you're a higher seed in those things, you got to host games. I mean, come on.
Or travel to those games.
Or travel to those games.
Can you imagine having to travel to a place like Providence for a CIT game?
Who are you playing this year? One of the Indianapolis schools, one of the IUPUIs.
Ooey pooey.
But give me IUPUI Purdue. They're wrong Purdue, all right? Utah State. This is not a good this is not a good moment for Aggie fans, but I'll tell you, I don't think they're fading. I know that people look at it and they go, but because if you talk about good teams right now in the Mountain West, teams like Colorado State have to have great moments right now like this one to be able to stay alive for even the possibility. I don't know. Utah State's not playing themselves out of the NCAA tournament, are they?
Not yet. No. At this point, so let's be honest about what Utah State just went through. Boise State's a tough place to play.
Yeah.
I was looking at the schedule this year. I was like, if they could be in first or second place in the Mountain West before they get to that Boise State, Colorado State section of their schedule, and if they have, if they're in a good spot with the NCAA tournament, they're gold. And they are. They were not expected to win those games, even though they're going to the NCAA tournament and those other 2 teams are on the bubble. I did not expect them to get waxed the way they did. I think their performance in Fort Collins was very poor. But to say that the wheels are coming off or you got to be worried about Utah State, no, they'll get home here shortly. They'll bounce back this week. They'll do really well in Vegas as they always do at the Mountain West tournament. I think we're headed for another New Mexico Utah State battle. At least I hope we are in that tournament. But Colorado State's now in second place in the Mountain West. So Utah State needs to get a couple wins to get that seeding spot that they want back. We'll see how that all plays out. But a disappointing week for Utah State, but don't panic, Utah State fans. They're fine.
The AP poll, as I said, is starting to take shape. Auburn is your unanimous number 1 in this current poll. Duke is number 2. Now, here are your Big 12 teams that are in the top 25. You got Houston at number 3. You've got Texas Tech at number 9. And it's funny how Texas Tech is like under the radar great. You know what I mean? Like that's a team that you saw last year blow the doors off of BYU in the Big 12 championship, in the Big 12 tournament. And I think the Texas Tech all year long has just been a tough out for people in this conference. But you've got Texas Tech, Iowa State, so that's 9 and 10. So you've got 3 Big 12 teams in the top 10, okay? And then you go all the way down, and it's BYU and Arizona at 23 and 24. And so I don't know if you look at it, do you think that this would be considered a down year for the Big 12? I don't think that because Houston is so good, Houston is a national championship contender, absolutely.
They'll be a 1 seed.
They'll be a 1 seed, and no team that faces Houston wants to face that team. And I think what's awesome about Houston is they don't have a superstar. They don't have like a one person who is like the conference player of the year.
They don't have a lottery pick.
Right, and the conference player of the year is not going to come from Houston.
No,
you know what I mean? But they are absolutely difficult to beat. I just want to see what this conference does. You don't want to see them go backward because you know how good they can be as a conference. I don't know how many teams they're going to end up with in bracketology when it comes out, or Selection Sunday when we actually see this thing roll out.
Right now, Lenardi has 8.
8 Big 12
That's
teams.
only 1 less than last year.
I don't know if they're better as a conference than they were last year necessarily. I do think that you're going to see some massive changes made, obviously, when the coach here in Utah, obviously, you're scratching your head wondering what the future is going to look like for Utah. And we haven't heard much on that front. And I know that part of it is because the search is underway. The 2 things that I'm like, that we went berserk over, that we were like, I can't believe, wow, look at how crazy this has been. No one's talking about Tom Holmoe's replacement. No one's talking about Craig Smith's replacement. It's just quiet on the front because the interviews are happening and national searches are happening. But I can't imagine that Alex Smith or that Alex Jensen, if they call him and he wants that job, it would be his, right?
I would think so.
Or do you think it's going to come from an outside? I mean, when they hired Craig Smith over Alex Jensen a few years ago, I didn't really think much of it because we all went, well, maybe Alex Jensen needs a few more years in the NBA, or maybe he just doesn't want this as much as he wants to be an assistant. But now that things have changed in Dallas for him, could you imagine how much he wants to be in Dallas right now? I don't know if it would be a lot.
I would think that this would seem like a really safe option for him right now because I wouldn't want to be a part of that organization moving forward.
I don't know if he wants to be
There's no safety there because that thing's going to go south without Luka now. There's going to be a lot of disappointment and a lot of angst, and Nico's going to have to do some things to try to cover his you-know-what, and firing Jason Kidd at some point might be that thing.
Oh, boy. Well, Jason Kidd doesn't – anytime you've seen Jason Kidd, have you thought that he's been all in on what Nico Harrison's done? I mean, I don't know.
Is anybody all in on what he's done? You've taken away a generational player, Luka Doncic, and you replaced him with the 32-year-old who can't stay healthy. I don't think that Anthony Davis gets you excited about the Mavericks' future. I think Anthony Davis is an elite player, but –
for how long?
I mean, the age gap. I mean, the amount of years you would have had Luka compared to what you're going to have Anthony Davis, that was not a move that makes you better long-term. And if I'm Alex Jensen and I'm weighing things out, I was like, what's the best situation for me right now? Because I think 4 years ago when Utah was hiring, Alex was in a much different place. Alex Jensen was the lead assistant for Quinn Snyder with the Jazz when they had Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. They were making playoff runs. That was the year that they had the best record in the NBA, you remember after COVID? And so everything was really sweet at that point for Utah and for Alex Jensen. I think that Alex Jensen thought he was going to get an NBA head coaching job. That has never materialized. Now he's in Dallas. The temptation to come back home to Utah and to resurrect the program that he played for.
And to get a boot.
In the state that he grew up in.
Right, and to get a raise.
Yeah, it all sounds amazing. And maybe it feels like it's the right time to take on that challenge. especially if you're going to be able to put together a dream team with Andre Miller as an assistant and all these things that some people have been talking about. The thought and idea of that sounds really, really fun.
But you also, if you take this gig as a head coach at the collegiate level, you also, the bitter part of that is that you probably never get a shot at being an NBA head coach after that, right?
Well, Kevin Young basically said sayonara to the NBA.
You're right. I mean, that's what, but that's kind of how it works, right? Like you
For
go,
the benefit of his family, he decided this is an option I'm going to take. And, the NBA, there's a lot of job openings that come up, but there's so many guys that are grinding as an assistant coach that are ready for that job. And if you're out of sight, out of mind, you're out of a job.
Right, but I also think, like, I don't know what Alex Jensen's designs are, what his dreams would be. Is it to be an NBA head coach? Because if that's the case, then he probably just goes, this is where I want to stay for the time being. But do you get a lot of looks if you're that lead assistant on that Dallas bench? Like, does that really
just look what happened to the Jazz, but from that time last time when they had the best record in the West, and now they're rebuilding. And now they have a new head coach. Quinn Snyder decides to leave. Like, that happened to Alex. Like, I don't know how the rug was kind of taken out from under him, and he did interview for the Jazz job, but he didn't get it. Will Hardy got it. And all of a sudden, you think you're comfortable in this place where your family's happy, and you finally have that stability that you want for your kids and everything, and then one decision's made and it's all gone, and suddenly you're caught up in this drama in Dallas. You're like, get me off this train. I don't want this on anymore. This might be appealing for him. There's also a flip side to this. If you're alumni of this program and you had all these great memories and you were part of this great run, do you want to jeopardize that or take a risk of damaging that legacy by coming back and putting yourself in a position where you could fail? I don't know. I think Alex Jensen is so beloved that it wouldn't. But I look back on the Ty Detmer BYU experiment that didn't work out. I mean, can you think of a more popular player all time at BYU than Ty Detmer? They had to fire a Heisman Trophy winner.
Right.
That's hard. And that's always going to be there. When we talk about Ty Detmer, you're going to talk about the amazing accomplishments as the Heisman Trophy winner on all the records he broke. But when you talk about Ty Detmer as a coach, you're not going to have that same sentiment because at the college level, it didn't work out.
Right.
So if Alex Jensen comes back to Utah, and it's for whatever reason over the last 2 decades, it's been tough to win there consistently. What if it doesn't work? And in your mind, is that enough for Alex Jensen to go, you know what? I don't want to deal with that. I would rather go somewhere else with different expectations. I don't want to take upon myself those expectations. I don't know. I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know what he wants. But I think he's the most qualified person that Utah could go out there and hire. It makes so much sense that now would be the perfect time for Alex to come back to Utah. And he's by far the most qualified. And I could see a Kevin Young type situation for him, bringing his NBA expertise and his background and his connections that are going to help him in recruiting and networking and otherwise. It's almost a mirror image of what BYU's doing right now that Utah could do with Alex Jensen as their head coach.
I think that if he goes in and interviews and it's the thing that he wants, it'd be his job to take, right? I mean, like, if you're a Utah fan,
talks about on his show that he was offered the job, Bowden Craig Smith got it. It just wasn't. It didn't work out. It wasn't the right time.
He didn't like the timing at that point.
Yeah.
But now is his dream to be an NBA head coach. If that's the case,
a lot has happened over the last 4 years.
Well, just the last 2 months, even.
Right.
I mean, for him,
right?
And so everything's changed. Everything. Could you imagine? Viewmont High School, Alex Jensen, head coach of the University of Utah, the guy who played for the guy. You know what I mean?
Too much sense, right?
If you're saying that if Andre Miller would be willing to be on that staff as his lead assistant, could you imagine that? In terms of being able to recruit guys and people who buy in and people who understand where you need to get.
If you need to rejuvenate that fan base, that's a good start. It will get people fired up again. Now, you got to win, but it'll get people back in the building, at least from the start.
Just bring the whole crew back.
Get the gang back together.
What's Andrew Bogut doing these days? Get him on the bench. Start coaching.
Where's Drew Hansen? Michael Doliak.
Look, you talk with Josh Grant.
Michael Doliak lives here.
You talk with Josh Grant. Josh Grant be on that crew. Come on.
Bring them all together.
Let's go. All right.
Alumni assemble.
Everybody just but then you know what? Don't just hire the guys who used to play there just for the sake of like saying, hey, they played here, like you were saying.
No,
I mean,
but Alex Jensen's resume is really
peak.
impressive.
Yeah. Might be the best candidate. All right. Stay right here. More to go around the corner. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on The Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Thanks for being with us on the program, everybody. Happy Monday to you. Happy weekend of sports. We'll get you ready for another full week here. We've got lots going on. By the way, the NFL Combine is going on, and I don't know, this is always my favorite thing really all we do is post guys who have insane bench presses, all right? Did they have a guy this year that did somebody break the record on the 225 reps? I saw a video of a guy that did 50, and I don't know if that was this year or if it was like they were showing an old school version of it.
Stephen Paella out of Timpview High School used to be the record holder. I don't know if he still is.
So when I need people to understand.
But they break that out every
when
year.
you can do in one sitting when you could do the 225 reps and you do it over, I think there was, because they had some bets going. You could, I don't know if you knew this, JJ, you can bet on these kinds of things.
Shocking.
The over-under on some guy was like 36.5, and I think he ended up with 45. Wow. 45, 225 bench press reps is insane. Because the reality is that the average person probably couldn't do that with just the bar because of just the repetition, because of how many, you just get burned out even just on a little bit of weight because you're just not used to doing it.
It becomes an endurance exercise at that point.
I mean, it's crazy. Here locally, by the way, Jalen Royals had a 4.42 in the 40. Hit the bench 13 times. That's pretty good for a wideout. He also had the second best 10-yard split on the 40-yard dash. That's good. That explosive kind of right out of the box type of space. Finished with a prospect grade of 6.27, which is good enough for about a third or fourth round projection. Yeah, typically, and that's out of 8. I think that number's out of 8 usually. And so you've got Junior Tafuna, who's a 5.8. Junior ended up having a pretty nice weekend. How about a 28.5-inch vertical on a D lineman? But what's crazy is that these guys put up these numbers, and I just can't believe when guys have a DL on their compression top that they're wearing at the combine, and they're running the types of numbers that they do, having the types of 40 times that they do. They had a guy there that was 320 and ran a 4.83 or something like that. Mm. And it's just crazy that what we've gotten to. It's crazy. I don't know what the 40-yard dash does for you if you're a defensive lineman. Like, those guys aren't going to run you down, all right? You don't want them to run you down, but it does say something about how crazy the level of athleticism is. So Jalen Royals, by far the best, the wideout out of Utah State, by far the best prospect grade out of the 3 local guys that were at the combine actually performing, right? So you got Junior is a 5.8 prospect grade. That's a good kind of 4 to 6 type of a draft grade for him. I don't know where Tyler Batty's going to end up because what's crazy is the guy's massive and he ran a 4.78, which sounds phenomenal, but like these edge rushers are showing up with 4.5, 4.6s. Edge rushers, JJ, are putting up almost the same type of a 40 time that Jalen Royals is. But again,
it's crazy. I
don't know what that does. Like, does that say everything about it? I mean, does the broad jump really help you? Or we're doing the shuttle, right? Remember when you were in elementary school and you'd pick up the eraser, drop it, put it back down again? Did you guys ever do that thing with the shuttle race where you'd have the eraser? And I don't know what these things do for you ultimately, but it's a show off of your athleticism. And a guy like Tyler Batty, who people will look at and go, that dude's massive, and he tied for third, I think, in the bench presses for defensive ends. 5th in the 3-cone drill. Yeah, and look, these are all guesses. Every one of these guys, these mid-round dudes to late-round guys, are toss-ups in a lot of cases. Like, what are you going to get with these guys? What's going to be the thing that puts them over the top? The reality is that they've got to match up with an organization, and every one of these guys could find themselves on a really good team, and they could find a really, really good situation. But is the situation going to be good for them to be able to have a long-term career? Hopefully. I think Tyler Batty he got a 5.68 prospect grade. I think that's probably you could see him go in the later rounds. You could see him get picked up by a team, and that'd be a nice pickup. But for the locals here, it's always fun to watch these scouting combines to see who's actually going to turn out. And in the end, too, you think about the success that you've had, even here locally, from guys who haven't been drafted. I mean, Zane Anderson is carving out a career for himself at Green Bay, and that was a guy. I mean, that might be his 3rd team. Since he's been in the NFL.
He's been living on practice squads forever, and he finally got a chance this year to play.
And you know what? He's been playing a lot, and these guys, the undrafted guys, can still live out the dream.
It becomes a game of survival.
So I'm interested to see which one of these guys will turn around and have a nice little career here. But I don't know. Do you think Tyler Batty finds himself onto an NFL roster?
I do. Does he end up having to do the practice squad route, perhaps
Maybe.
at the beginning? Do I think he gets drafted? I think he does. I think it's going to be late, just like these other guys. I think Junior's going to get drafted too, but it'll be late. Kenny Reed's another guy I think that's going to get drafted late. Some other local guys that I think are going to get drafted. Jackson Haas, a tight end from Highland High School, played at Georgia Tech. He had a really good combine. His draft grade, I had it right here, 6.18. Which is better than these guys that we just mentioned previously. Well, other than Jalen Royals. Jalen Royals' prospect grade is really high.
Yeah,
he's really nice.
He's a 2nd or 3rd round guy, I think.
Jeffrey Bassa, who played at Oregon, who's from Kearns High School, had a good combine. His is 6.15, and of course Jackson Dart had a nice combine. Didn't run the 40, but his grade is 6.19. But what he did was throw the football and throw it really, really well. I think Jackson Dart might have moved himself up in the draft. I think he's probably the 3rd quarterback that's going to get taken in this draft. Some team might think about him in the late first round.
Did you see all the rips on Will Howard?
Oh man,
Will Howard had a bad combine.
That's why Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward didn't throw the football, because you can have a day like Jackson Dart, but you could also have a day like Will Howard.
But see, that's why Will Howard had to throw, is because he didn't have the benefit of being a top 2 or 3 guy. So he goes in, and Shedeur Sanders actually came to his rescue on Twitter and said, "Hey, everybody's dogging on Will Howard's performance at this guy just won a national championship. That should be good for something." And on top of it, you're not used to throwing to guys you're not used to throwing to. And I was like, that's kind of nice that Shedeur showed up and apologized for Will Howard's performance. I don't know if you win were there guys who threw terribly at the combine that ended up being good NFL quarterbacks? I'm sure there have been. I'm sure of it. But the reality is that there are guys like Will Howard that you and we had to kind of back it up and apologize to Will Howard after the national championship, right? Because you were like, the whole year we were going, this is a guy who was going to be the 2nd-string quarterback at Kansas State, and he ends up going in there and winning the Natty at Ohio State. So maybe there's this thing where he just competes, man. He's a competitor. He goes in there and he makes something out of nothing. And there are guys.
Well, the greatest of all time did not have a good combine.
Oh,
it's Tom Brady.
Everybody loves watching Tom Brady's 40.
Tom Brady's combine in 2000 was not good.
He continually, like every year, he asks the NFL, please do not show me running the 40 again, please. Because he's wearing, I think, Nike Air Monarchs. And I think he has like a little bit of a gut. The best shape he's ever been in is right now, by the way.
There's no doubt about that. He was 20 pounds heavier in 2000.
He had the roundest face. It was before he went into
it wasn't muscle.
It was before he went into the clean eating supermodel diet that he had. So,
do you know who else didn't have a good combine? Who? Drew Brees. Drew Brees did not measure well at the combine in 2001.
He's got small hands. Did you see, by the way, who
Smells
was it?
like cabbage.
Was it Jalen Milroe who everyone's like, how did his fingers grow 1 inch from the Senior Bowl? Did you see that whole thing?
No.
They said somehow he measured like 8 and 3/4 inches on his hands. And then they're like, how is he 9 2/3 inches now on his hands? You got some
He had some extensions put in.
Some hand lengtheners. What are we talking about here? What do you have to take for that? And who are they? Could you imagine his hand in a vice during getting him ready for the
every night? He's
every night for the combine. He's put on his headgear for his teeth and then put on his hand extenders so he can measure well at the combine. The hands have to be huge, otherwise people aren't going to take you seriously. What are we talking about here? Come on.
The combine is not an end-all, be-all. There's the list goes on. Terrell Suggs had a bad combine. Navarro Bowman. So there's been some guys that did not perform well there that end up having great NFL careers.
I'm sure. And
Quan Bolden, also not a good combine. And
how about the guys who never even get it? The thing is there are guys who never get invited to the combine and they end up having phenomenal careers, right? I mean,
yes.
There are guys who don't ever even get the invite.
Taysom Hill did not perform at the combine, and he's had a nice NFL career, right? So
yeah, but again,
it can happen.
Did he go there with the QB shirt on at the combine?
He didn't get an invite to the combine.
Oh, I thought that you were going to say So what did he do at his pro day? Did he throw?
Or he did everything. I remember.
Run?
I remember. I was there. I watched his pro day. He was great.
And was he just trying to prove that he was an athlete? Was he just trying to get on? Was he back then even trying to get on as just an athlete / quarterback?
No, he was trying to be a quarterback.
QB only.
Oh yeah. I mean,
so
his athleticism was crazy.
Right, because you just never knew if there was even going to be a guy who would be allowed to do the type of things that he's been doing in his career. Is he who would they allow to even do that? Nobody, because no one would take a shot at somebody like that. So
no.
The combine isn't the end all be all of kind of where we're at. But at the same time, if you're a guy who's on the edge of getting drafted, it always helps to be able to get that high draft grade and get it going.
There's guys like Jackson Dart who made themselves a lot more money by showing up and doing
He's
great.
the only one who got that A grade for a lot of folks over the weekend.
Yep. He was impressive.
And when he gets drafted by my Seahawks.
You know
Did
what?
we already talk about Alex?
That'd be a great fit.
We already talked about on Friday your guy getting an extension, right? Oh, good. I'm just excited for you. Did you see also that the Raiders had apparently offered him $100 million for 2 years, and he turned that down? That's how bad Lloyd's team is. He couldn't even take $100 million for 2 years.
The Raiders.
I mean, it was all reported, right? So he takes a 1-year deal that's not worth as much, and he denies the Raiders any type of success this year. There you go. All right, we'll take a break. We've got more around the corner. When we come back, we'll get you with our weekend warriors, people who won the weekend here for us, and much more. So stay here. Top of the hour, Cole Bagley, our Utah Hockey Club insider, is going to join us. And we'll get you ready for Jazz basketball tonight as well, coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. So stay right here. More to go, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
When TV and radio collide.
Love it.
Wow. This is what you get. You're listening to JJ and Alex. Presented by G2G Bars.
Don't touch that dial.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, welcome back, everybody. JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Oh, it's that time of year. It's that time of the year for us. Today's the anniversary of Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game.
Did it really happen?
I mean, I've seen the grainy picture of him.
I mean, he wrote it on the paper.
He did write it on the paper.
But we haven't seen actual video of this. It's like the moon landing at this point.
What's shocking
the Wilt Chamberlain 100-point game is a conspiracy theory.
Well, what's shocking is, too, think about how the NBA was, struggling to get on. NBA games on TV just wasn't a thing. Even into the 80s, we were still struggling to, put games on TV. What did they do? They did tape delay replays of Jazz games. They would go and the game would be played.
I think in the 70s, the finals were tape delayed on Wide World of Sports.
That's crazy.
Something.
That's crazy.
It wasn't something. It just was different time.
Yeah, man. Well, yeah, come on, look. Yeah, he wrote. I love how whoever wrote it in crayon on the paper, that's the tradition now. They're all, hey, could you write my score total terribly on a piece of paper? Just so it looks like Wilt's game. Because the 70-point games we've had over the past couple of years, Luka had one. I think that, didn't Devin Booker had one too?
Yeah, Joel Embiid, I believe.
Joel Embiid had one, and everybody's had to scratch it on a piece of paper.
Donovan hit 70? Yeah. Crazy.
is anybody ever going to get over Kobe's 81 even?
That's a lot. That's
crazy.
A lot.
Did he do that against the Jazz?
Kobe?
No, he just had the 60
That was, remember Jalen Rose and the Toronto Raptors?
Sorry, I just assumed.
It felt like if somebody with the Lakers uniform did something crazy, it was against the Jazz.
Did Chamberlain do that against the Utah Jazz? I know they weren't a team yet, but just assuming, right? My heavens.
He did in spirit.
Weekend Warriors brought to you by Gillette Heating and Air. Right now, get seasonal maintenance done on your furnace, $59 only. So just see GilletteHVAC.com for more. That's GilletteHVAC.com to make an appointment. Let me see here. Ooh, here's the deal with Weekend Warriors. There's a lot of people that could win the weekend for you, and I know that Fus Traore was had a nice night for BYU. The one that was the play of the weekend pretty much for I think if you watch it at all, it was crazy because up at the Huntsman Center to have Maddie Wilkie drain this shot made the absolute weekend for basketball watchers across the state because, man, it broke the hearts of BYU and it elevated this Utah Utes women's program in one shot. Here's what it sounded like.
D coming over. It looked like a potential jump ball. They don't call it. Wilkie. Oh.
Ball game. That's about as good as it gets.
Incredible.
Right? That's about as good as it gets. Rivalry game, half-court shot.
Your last regular season game, it was senior night for the Utes.
Yeah, it's cool. That's it. That's the best. You can't write it any better. That's how you write it if you're ending the season on that one.
Against your rival.
There you go.
Wow.
All right. We'll take the break. We'll come back. We've got Cole Bagley, our Utah Hockey Club insider for KSLSports.com, going to give us a look at this team and what's going on this week for the club and see what they can do to make that push to the playoffs. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen,
The biggest name.
You're locked into JJ and Alex. With the insight and analysis on the teams you can't live without. Presented by G2G Bars. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. With complete coverage of the Utah Hockey Club, this is Cole Bagley of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, everybody. It's another edition of JJ and Alex right here on a Monday. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Our show is brought to you by G2G Bars, all natural ingredients and no preservatives to make the G2G Bar the perfect protein bar. For you to give it a shot, you just go to Costco, Holiday Oil, Maverick, Associated Foods, Smith's, all in the refrigerated section. Give it a shot. Let's kick off the cut right here, as the voice said, and let's just jump in right here. Let's talk some hockey. Let's do it.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And, of course, the cut brought to you this hour by the good folks at the Doug Smith family of dealerships in American Fork, Spanish Fork, and now in Linden as well. Nobody knows cars like Doug. And nobody knows this Utah Hockey Club like Cole Bagley, our Utah Hockey Club insider for KSLSports.com. I went with my fan hat on Saturday night. Official full disclosure, because I went with my kids. One of them was celebrating a birthday early, and so we said, let's do the hockey club thing. They lose to New Jersey, but, man, an awesome atmosphere, and I think that Coach Torney said it best this weekend, Cole, when he said, hey, look, they've been playing phenomenal. We've been playing. I even liked our effort in that loss because that's a really, really good New Jersey Devils team, and this team's playing really, really good hockey. Is it the best hockey they've played all season long?
Yeah, it is. To go 3-1 on the homestand was huge for this team. To pick up 6 points, to only be, 2 points out from a wild card spot. This last week was about as good as it could have gone. Yeah, it would have been nice to pick up, fourth win either against LA or New Jersey, but those are two really good teams. LA's third in the Pacific right now with 70 points, and New Jersey's third in the Metropolitan with 72. And you're not going to win them all. So for Utah to buckle down, to get as healthy as they've been all year, and to show how good they can be when fully healthy, just kind of speaks volumes to the construction of this roster and the potential this team has moving forward.
Well, the good news, Cole, is that some other teams cooperated and they got some help last night. How did all that shake out, and where do they stand right now?
Yeah, so a lot of the guys have been saying, look, nobody's going to help us out, but as of right now, they did get some help last night. The Calgary Flames lost in overtime, so they were only able to pick up 1 point. And then the Blues lost in regulation to the Dallas Stars. So yeah, some much needed help. As of right now, Calgary is in the second wild card spot with 65. Vancouver's right behind them with 65. St. Louis at 64 and Utah with 63. Now, of course, Utah has a game in hand over St. Louis, but Vancouver and Calgary both have a game in hand over Utah that they'll both play out before Utah plays again on Thursday. So, there will be some work to be done, some ground to be made up. But as of right now, this race is about as tight as it gets, and Utah is right in the middle of it. With the complete full opportunity to seize a playoff spot.
One of the things that we've watched is this team defensively has gotten much more strong, and obviously Sean Durzi coming back is a big part of that. How critical has it been to be able to kind of get that blue line figured out, and not just healthy, but also kind of everybody getting back and gelling again, because that's also part of the equation?
I mean, it's everything. When you look at how they started the year off, losing Durzi 4 games in, having John Marino miss more time than was anticipated, and then a couple other injuries to that as well, and then having to trade for Ole Mata, kind of as a replacement, an emergency type situation where they just needed some depth and a veteran presence. This team is likely, I think, set in a lot of ways defensively moving forward. Sergachev's your top guy. Durzi's easily your number 2, and very much the heart and soul of the Utah Hockey Club in a lot of ways. John Marino is a 2B, if you will, and so on and so forth. I mean, they just about an hour ago, they extended Ole Mata to a 3-year contract extension. So they obviously like what they're seeing from him in terms of, his veteran presence, the way that he's so solid and has been able to hold things down for Utah. And then you've got a guy like Michael Kesselring, who's coming along nicely as well, in addition to a few prospects like Maverick Lamoureux in the AHL and Dmitry Simashev coming up from the KHL. So this blue line for Utah is very good. I think now that they're healthy, they're right where they want, the organization and front office wanted them to be, and I think they're playing the way that Bill Armstrong hoped when he assembled them.
They're off until Thursday night when they're at the Detroit Red Wings. A little bit of time to rest again, so that's going to help them certainly. But as you look at the schedule, I'm looking at this right now, Cole, and I'm thinking, boy, these next 6 games, which concludes at Vancouver on Sunday, March 16th, this is not only a crucial stretch that you talk about, but this is a very, very doable stretch as far as gaining ground and getting a lot of wins here. They should win some of these games, if not most of them.
Yeah, over the next 6 games like you were talking about, 4 of those are very winnable games. Chicago is a dumpster fire. Seattle's still trying to figure things out. Vancouver is very beatable, as Utah demonstrated last week. And Quinn Hughes, their star defenseman, continues to be questionable in his return, and the forwards in Vancouver just cannot score. So I think you kind of circle definitely Chicago and Seattle, Vancouver. Anaheim, yeah, they're playing a lot better, but that's a team that Utah can and should beat. So the question marks for me are more so kind of the Detroit and Toronto. Anaheim, maybe if you want to add it, that one could easily go either way. But yeah, it's set up nicely. There's going to be some ground to make up, like I said, with Vancouver and Calgary having games in hand before Utah gets back to action on Thursday. So they may be facing down 4 points to both of those squads. But with a back-to-back on Thursday and Friday against Detroit and Chicago, 4 points very doable. And then facing Vancouver about a week and a half later, that's a must win. You got to go to Vancouver and make sure you're picking up 2 points to really get that 4 point swing over a team that's currently ahead of you.
Some of the most it's an aggressive schedule this week. They've got those 2 back-to-backs they got the back-to-back that's Thursday, Friday, but also jammed in the middle of that is the trade deadline for the NHL. Do you see this team making some moves? Do you see them getting even more aggressive here as they make a push toward the end of the season right now? Or is it something where they go, look, we like our guys and where we're at, and this is an off-season situation we have to address figuring out the roster and making those moves?
I think it's more of what you just were talking about, that the real moves that I think Utah is going to make would be centered around the offseason. When guys like Mikko Rantanen and Mitch Marner become free agents, players, offensive players that could greatly help your team. And, Utah definitely has a deep pocket to be able to pay those players what they're hoping for. And so that's where I would put more of my attention to in terms of, is this team buying or selling? I wouldn't be shocked if we see some smaller deals take place between now and then. Maybe some of those expiring contracts, guys like, Bukestad and Cole, or, any of those players. I'm not saying that they're going to, but if anybody was going to get traded, you'd have to think it's one of those, playoff teams looking for some added size, some added veteran presences to help push them over the top in the playoffs. That's the only way that I could really see it. I think if Utah does anything bigger right now, I would say, keep an eye on, the potential extension of Karel Vejmelka. They just extended Oli Mata today. And Frank Cervalli of the Daily Faceoff was reporting that he's hearing that things are starting to progress with Vejmelka and Utah in terms of an extension, which, in my opinion, is something they need to get done. Vejmelka has been absolutely superb, a top 10 goaltender for most of the year. He held things down when Ingram was out. He's been holding things down over the last week and a half. He's been a huge part of them getting those 3 wins at home. So, it's something that they need to get done. And, according to some reports, things are starting to progress in that direction.
I think we all understand now how Liam O'Brien got his nickname Spicy Tuna. Every time that dude sets out on the ice, he's mixing it up. He's getting into it with some guy, and it is so much fun. We don't see him as much as I think fans would like, but when he is out there, what impact is he having for this team?
He's a pretty smart guy, isn't he? He's not an, overly exceptionally talented guy with the puck on his stick, but what he does excel at is energy. He is nonstop. He has a nonstop motor. He's constantly hitting the forecheck. He's doing his best to create turnovers. He's finishing his checks in a punishing manner, putting guys into the boards with force and at times knocking them over. And then obviously he's willing to drop the gloves at any point with anybody. Doesn't matter time or place. He's willing to do it. And I think what stands out about the game against New Jersey, fighting is all about timing. If you're up by 3 or 4 goals, there's really no point,
right.
To drop the gloves. You don't want to allow the other team to get some momentum. But when they were trailing, New Jersey down by a goal, Utah was pretty flat. They were, not really connected with their passes. They looked a little bit lost, and the Devils were definitely dominating that game early. He decided to drop the gloves, and he won the fight. I can't remember the name of the player that he decided to fight, but that guy stood like 6'4". That's a big dude, and he held his own and was able to hype the crowd. And Delta Center definitely came to life after that. So he's a big energy guy. And I asked Coach Torney, afterwards. I said, how have you seen, Liam O'Brien's game really progressed this season? He said poise, just the way that he holds himself, the way that he's able to make an impact and to know when to make the right, to make certain things happen, to drop his gloves or whatever it is. Obviously, he still hasn't scored a goal yet. Hopefully that takes place at Delta Center, because I think the place would go absolutely bonkers for it. But he's an important player. Every team in the NHL needs a guy like Liam O'Brien.
Important week, obviously, for this team, and hitting the road has actually been something that's been good for them. And so, what is the reality of the next couple of weeks look like for this team? Like, what do they have to do? Is it really just holding their own in games that they're supposed to win, but really getting that Vancouver game. I mean, there's so many things on here because I know that everybody has expectations like, hey, they're right there on the edge of the playoffs. But, a couple of weeks ago, we were kind of going, hey, hold off on the playoff talk. And now that's changed quite a bit. And so what's the reality for what this team needs to do over the next couple of weeks to be able to make that push?
Yeah, I mean, historically speaking, and everybody's talked about it, it generally takes about 95 points to make the playoffs. So if you're looking at Utah's, the games they have left, number of points that they have, they got 21 to go, and to reach 95 points, they would need 32, which means they got to win about 16 of the last 21. Very doable, but I think when you take a step back, of the teams that are pushing for the playoffs, in the West, hoping to get one of those wild cards, you've got 5 teams that are all within about 6 points of each other, and they're all playing each other down the stretch, once or twice. And so I don't know that it's going to take that 95 mark for Utah to do it. Obviously, if they hit 95, that probably would, just about seal the deal and get Utah in. So that would take about 16 games. What I think it's going to more so take is around 88 to 90 points. I think it's so tight. These teams are playing each other, down the stretch quite a bit. There's a lot of back and forth. Nobody's really, standing alone in terms of, running away with the competition. So I think, looking through the rest of this month with, I believe they've got about 12 or 13 games, they probably need to win about half of those. Half of those or more, maybe 6 or 7 of those games to keep themselves in contention. Going into April, they're probably going to have to win, 5 or 6 as well. But if they're able to really go on another, 3-4 game run, I mean, essentially every 5 games, they got to be winning 3 or 4 of those to stay in this hunt. And it's definitely doable. I think I mentioned it before. They have, I believe, the 4th or 5th most, most favorable schedule of any teams remaining. So, the lane is open, the opportunity is there, the team is healthy. There is a legit chance for this team to do it, but they're going to have to keep consistently playing, pretty decent hockey and probably winning about 70 to 80% of the games they've got left.
Yeah, I was just looking at the standings the last 3 years in the West. The East, different beast, but it doesn't really apply here, so I didn't really count that. But last year it required 98 points to get in. 2 years ago, 95. 3 years ago, 97. So you're right, Cole. In that range, that mean, that average, probably around 95 is what it's going to take. So a lot of work to be done there. He didn't have he didn't explode on Saturday, but Clayton Keller had a great week last week. I just wanted to get your thoughts on what he had accomplished, that run of, I think, about 6 games he had where he was just phenomenal.
Yeah, Keller's playing the best hockey of his career right now. He's on pace to break 90 points for the first time, in his career, which is that's phenomenal. That's more than a point per game. And I think a lot of it is, and I talked with Coach about this as well, is, his complete 200-foot game has come a long way. I think he's definitely holding himself to a higher standard now that he officially has the C on his chest. I think he's able to focus more on hockey, this year than he has, especially compared to last season with all the relocation rumors and whatnot. And, this is probably one of the best teams, if not the best team that Keller's ever played with. Guys like Logan Cooley and Dylan Gunther, Sean Dursey, Mikhail Sergachev. So he's doing incredible things. What you're seeing is a big part of the reason that he is the captain of the Utah Hockey Club. He's very competitive. He's masterfully creative. You watch the way that he's able to, connect with his teammates on a consistent basis, whether it's direct passes, saucer passes. That to me, I think Keller might be one of the most talented passers in the NHL. He's able to just lift a puck and, with precision, put it on his teammates' tape. So it's been a lot of fun to watch, and it also just kind of speaks volumes to the youthfulness of this team. Their captain is 26 years old and still has not hit his has not come quite into his prime yet. So it's an exciting thing for Utah Hockey Club fans to not only have the Gunthers and the Coolies and Josh Doan and so many more prospects, but to have a young captain who is just continuing to get better. He's gonna do some serious things in Utah.
All right. He is our Utah Hockey Club insider. He is Cole Bagley. Cole, we appreciate you joining us as usual, man. Thanks for hanging out, and we're looking forward to this push here and see how this team can do over the next month.
Should be a lot of fun, guys. Thanks so much.
All right,
Thanks,
there you
Cole.
go. Cole Bagley. When the gloves dropped the other night, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, I had three boys there, three of my boys there, and that was the only thing that mattered that night. You know what I mean?
They got to fight. They got to see a fight.
Well, and it was kind of out of nowhere. It wasn't like everybody was waiting and watching. The puck is coming down the ice, and then you just see four gloves. I mean, it looked like an explosion of gloves onto the ice, and then they blow the whistle, and it was not much of a fight, but because Liam O'Brien put his dude ended up on top of him and pushing him into the ice. That was it. And then he gave the old LFG, and then and then the crowd was into it for the rest of the night. So there you go. Our Utah Hockey Club insider Cole Bagley is brought to you every week right here by Hercules First Federal Credit Union, growing stronger together. We'll come back. We've got more to go right around the corner. We've got our NFL Blitz. We're going to chat about some of the goings-on at the NFL Combine, the latest of some of the teams who are trying to figure out their quarterback future. So stay here, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All the latest news and notes from the league and the locals in the NFL. JJ and Alex bring you the NFL Blitz on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Happy Monday. Thanks for being a part of the show today. Yes, it is your NFL Blitz right now. Doing it a little bit early, of course, because we're going to get you ready for Jazz basketball coming up at 6 o'clock. You're going to get the pregame right here on the KSL Sports Zone. We've got a lot of Jazz to talk about next hour. So guess what we have right here? It is time for us to remind you that it is imperative that if you have somebody in your community that is doing a phenomenal job when it comes to the youth sports program in your area, if there's somebody who goes the extra mile to make sure that the sports in your neighborhood are an even better situation for our kids, you nominate that youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. How does it work? You've heard us doing this. We take those nominations, we pick a winner, and they win the Hercules Hero of the Week. They get a prize from Hercules First Federal Credit Union. We read those nominations off. We give them a little bit of love on the radio. And then, of course, they also get that $200 to Beehive Meals. It's a win-win for everybody. We recognize the people who are the sports volunteers in your neighborhood making an impact. It's the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules Credit Union and Beehive Meals. Just go to KSLSports.com/contests, KSLSports.com/contests, and nominate that youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. All right. Is this real right now? The 49ers may have dealt Deebo Samuel.
Very real. Happened over the weekend.
I saw all the pictures. I have all these accounts that have these.
Careful on Instagram.
I know the trade proposals are fake. Like I'm always seeing them. I'm like, what? And that's how they get you to look at it, right? And then at the bottom it'll say trade proposal. But Deebo Samuel headed to the Washington Commanders. Nice little piece of nice little target for Jaden Daniels to maybe improve. I don't know if we probably saw the best of Deebo Samuel during his time at the 49ers, but, sometimes these guys, when they get to that new team and they have that new rejuvenated attitude towards life, and look, the 49ers needed to save some money somehow, and so there you go. They've dealt Deebo Samuel Sr. to the Washington Commanders. You like that deal?
I love it for the Commanders. I think that he'd worn out his run with the 49ers, and he's not the same guy. I don't think he was worth the money that he was wanting to be paid there.
Right.
Now you go to Washington. They already have Terry McLaurin, who had 82 catches, 1,096 yards, 13 touchdowns last year. You put Deebo in the role that he played with the 49ers on that Washington team, when you already got Zach Ertz at tight end, Zacchaeus at wide receiver. They've got some good young guys on that team. Who knows what they add in the draft, too. So I like the Commanders making this move. It gives them another weapon on that offense. And Jaden Daniels is just going to be even better with the weapon like that.
Yeah, and plus you get rejuvenated, like I said, when you get traded.
Oh, yeah, he's got something to prove now.
And everybody tells you you're old and busted.
Yep.
And the best part of your career has already happened. And so then you can prove everybody wrong with that. And you'll at least get that bump this year. You get like at least a 1-year bump. And that might be all that this team needs.
That's all they gave up for was a 5th-round pick. And they've got the room in the cap to do this.
Yeah.
Take advantage while Jaden Daniels is on that rookie deal.
Speaking of wide receivers, T. Higgins looks like he's going to get that franchise tag for the 2nd year in a row. I mean, that's good money, but I don't know. It's funny how the franchise tag comes across as like a moment of disrespect from teams, you know? And like, I don't know. I mean, look, if you're T. Higgins, don't you want to stay at Cincinnati with a potential Hall of Fame quarterback at the helm, or do you just kind of go, you know what? I want to go out and get my market value, because a lot of guys feel like, hey, I'm getting the franchise tag and you're not paying me what I'm actually worth. And so there's that little bit of awkwardness when these guys, and when you get the franchise tag 2 years in a row, that's also a kind of a punch to the gut.
Yeah, because they want that big long-term deal. That's the problem. It's kicking the can down the road. It's the best way I would describe the franchise tag. Now, look, don't feel bad for T. Higgins. He's going to make $26.2 million in 2025. That's number one receiver money. That's pretty good money.
I think the franchise tag, what do? They take the average of the top 3?
Yeah. There's some kind of formula they use to come up with that number. And, yeah, if you're one of the best receivers in the world and you want that big payday, you want a long-term deal, this isn't it.
Yeah, agents don't love the franchise tag because they know.
No, the agents hate it.
Because they go, look,
the
this
players
guy,
hate it.
He could get that tib-fib fracture and the career's cut short.
Brandon Ayuk last year.
Right. And so that's a bad deal, and it's always a risk, but I think it'll be okay.
$26.2 million. His ego takes a little bit of a hit.
Yeah.
He has to wait one more year for that big deal. But go out there and ball out with this Cincinnati team that I think is going to bounce back nicely
but
next year.
Also, playing, like I said, with a generational quarterback, I think we all recognize that Joe Burrow's
and who's
going to
get all the attention from defenses? It's not you, dude. It's Jamar Chase.
Yep.
Which makes it easy for you to eat. He could have another big year, and at that point, he probably goes out and is able to get that big money long-term deal that he wants wherever it is.
Might not be at the Bengals, but yeah.
No. But, yeah, don't feel bad for him, although I'm sure he's frustrated that he's not getting exactly what he wants.
So the Jets have, of course, moved on from Aaron Rodgers, which, of course, means they may have also moved on from Davante Adams. They're trying to figure out how to move this guy. If they can't trade him, they're just going to cut him. And I think you're probably going to see the latter more than the former. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of teams who want to take on Davante Adams, right?
Not at the price, no.
Not at the price he's asking for, and
he's
on top of it,
scheduled for a cap hit of more than $38.25 million in 2025. The Jets could save $29.8 million by releasing Adams.
What's wild is, they're not hoping for a trade. They're hoping to.
Nobody's going to trade for that cap hit.
No
way.
They're hoping to just waive him. And I'll tell you too, like, it's a bad deal because now he's just the guy who ends up being the safety blanket for Aaron Rodgers, right? That's the vibe that it's just like, oh, wherever Aaron Rodgers ends up, he might get Davante Adams.
Because the chemistry, the comfort level, the success that they had as a tandem in Green Bay, yeah, I think that you like that. But it didn't work with the Jets, so with their advanced age, is it going to work in the new place? I doubt it. But this is what GMs do. They like the familiar.
The
I think the chemistry plugged in already works.
The awkwardness in New York just keeps getting more awkward. I love it. Jimmy Johnson, Hall of Fame head coach for the Cowboys, of course. He is, by the way, did you think that his TV career with Fox was 31 years?
No, it blew my mind when I saw that headline, and I had to go back and do the math.
If you'd have told me 20, I'd have said you're crazy. If you'd have said like maybe a 14-year career at Fox, I'd have gone, yeah, that sounds about right. 31 years at Fox. That means he's covered the NFL on Fox on TV for like 2.5 times longer than he was a coach in the NFL.
So he joined Fox after he got was it fired with the Dallas Cowboys? How do we term that?
I don't know, broke up. He
A
broke
mutual
up with
breakup?
broke up with his former Arkansas friend.
When he left the Cowboys in 1994, he signed with Fox. He then went back into coaching for a bit. He was the coach and GM for the Dolphins, if you remember.
That's
kind of a forgettable run there. But he was there. So between that time away, it all adds up to about 31 years that he was on the Fox pregame show, which is, and it feels like he's been there since the beginning. It's crazy how much time has gone by since then, but yeah, 31 years. That's a long run on TV.
How do they get Terry Bradshaw to hit this road, too? Did I say that out loud? Sorry, I thought I was just saying that in the into the talkback.
Yeah, poor Terry had a rough time. Was it the NFC Championship game post?
Oh, I don't know. Pick your time when he's
had a lot of health
lost.
issues he's been dealing with too. So
Well,
Terry, but the end comes for all these guys. You can't do this business forever. Then it brings up the topic, well, who's going to replace them if that happens? Obviously, Jimmy Johnson's leaving, so they would need to replace him. But imagine Terry's coming to a point where he's going to have to step away too. We're so used to those voices those faces being on those shows.
I'm going to be honest. I thought that Terry Bradshaw was like the same age or a little bit older than Jimmy Johnson. And Terry's only 76. So there you go. Howie Long, by the way, 65 years old. He's like the best in shape 65-year-old you've ever seen.
He looks like he's 50 max, right? He looks phenomenal.
But Jimmy Johnson being 81 years old reminds you that Jerry Jones is 80-something also and should not be doing what he's doing. But he owns the team, so there you go.
Oh, Yoda will never die.
Well, just sell the team. You'll get $11 billion. Wouldn't you think they'd get $11 or $12 billion for the Cowboys
Jerry
today?
cares about $11 billion? You think he wants that money?
No, but I'm just saying,
the dude loves having his toy. The Cowboys are his toy. And he would never want to give it up and share it with some other kid.
Oh, my gosh.
He treats it like a toy.
He does. I treated toys terribly, too, when I was a kid. I broke a lot of stuff. So, if he treats it like a toy, he's just broken.
Blown up G.I. Joes.
Listen, yeah, and even now, my kids, like, how many RC things have you bought that you can't find the charger for that battery anymore and whatever? That's where he's at right now. All right, we'll take the break here. We'll come back. We've got our Sucks to Be You segment. Stay here, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Basking in the sports misfortune of others to help make you feel just a little bit better about yourself. As JJ and Alex present,
yes, we got beat. We got beat badly.
It Sucks to Be You.
Oh, everything doesn't suck today. Come on. It does for these people. The people that make the list of the folks who it currently sucks to be, according to us. Welcome back, by the way, JJ and Alex. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. We're going to chat with Tom from the warehouse in just a moment here. First, though, JJ, sucks to be Matthew Tkachuk. Let me see here. So, Charlie McAvoy, he's out for the season for the Bruins, right?
Yeah.
So now you've got Matthew Tkachuk, who is now out for the season for the Florida Panthers with the groin injury that he sustained. I think this was during the Four Nations Cup, right?
He's out for the regular season. Yes,
out
it was
for the
Four
regular
Nations.
season.
Yeah,
it was Four Nations. So you had two players. I know that
He's
this
on the IR.
It was a massive coup for the for hockey, right? But like two of the best players in the world.
The Bruins and the Panthers are paying a price for
They're
Four
pissed.
Nations.
They are pissed. And you know what? Stinks to be them, sucks to be them, however you want to look at it. Hey, JJ just gave me an update on Portland and bringing Major League Baseball to Portland, who I will currently throw on the list now as who it sucks to be is the Portland baseball folks who are trying to get this thing put together. What do you have, JJ?
Yeah, they're still begging the Portland legislature for
the
money.
Oregon legislature to see if they'll get it?
So the Portland Diamond Project released a statement today.
Sounds like, you know what, Portland Diamond Project already sounds terrible. Keep going.
Well, they've been doing this for 20 years and nothing's come of it, but they would like to thank members of the House Committee on Economic Development, Small Business, and Trade for inviting us to testify. We believe the state's support is critical for this project's success. We asked legislators to revisit SB 5, originally passed in 2003, and update the law to better reflect the current revenue generated by players' salaries and the rising costs of building a world-class stadium in downtown Portland. This will not be a new or additional tax on Oregonians. We look forward to working with the legislature to make Oregon better with baseball.
Yeah.
It's just a reminder that they've been trying to do this for over 20 years, and they're nowhere close to where Utah already is in a matter of a year and a half.
They have to go back and readjust their numbers from 2003. That's how.
This has been dangling out there so long.
I love it.
They had to adjust for inflation.
Hey, Dallas Mavericks fans, sucks to be you today. You know why? Because not only are you going through the weirdest upheaval in your recent franchise history, maybe even the entire history of your franchise, but you've also just got hit with a 9% increase on season ticket prices. So not only are you guys going to suck going forward, it sucks to be your pocketbook because you're going to take basically a 10% increase. And the thing that I love the most is what they listed it as. They're like, for ongoing improvements and fan engagement. I was like, fan engagement? You engage fans with good players. You engage fans with world-class, top-notch,
you had one of the 5 best players in the NBA and on the planet.
He was already going to be
in his mid-20s.
He was the second best player in the history of that franchise, and he hasn't been there that long.
Already, yep.
Right. So, look, there's something to be said when Dirk is going to Lakers games all the time. Okay?
That's weird.
That is a weird thing, right? Dirk's been to like 5 Laker games in the last couple of weeks supporting his guy Luka.
We'll see Dirk in a Lakers Luka jersey, and we're going to be like, oh, I'm so sorry, Dallas. It just gets worse.
Yep. Nico's a 4-letter word in Dallas.
Ew.
I love it. We'll come back. Chandler Holt, KSL Sports, and the Jazz Notes podcast host, along with Ben Anderson. Chandler's going to join us next. Let's get you ready for this Jazz basketball tonight against the just hang out right here. We've got tons going on. We'll tell you about how that Pelicans game went, obviously, over the weekend and see what that does for the rest of this week for this Jazz team. So stay right here, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You know what's coming.
Your daily deep dive into everything Utah Jazz.
It's time!
All season long and even in the off season. It's Jazz Daily with JJ and Alex on your exclusive home of Utah Jazz basketball. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It is a Monday edition of JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Alex, Kirry, Jeremiah, Jensen. Let me see here. The Jazz win on Friday thanks to some nice effort against those Timberwolves. It was a battle of who was going to lose this game, and the Jazz won that contest. I mean, they eked out the win.
Oh, it was a big win on Sunday night.
It was a huge one.
Huge.
And then, of course, they lose to the Pelicans, 128-121, and it was the two worst teams in the West right now, which is bodes well for the Jazz's chances in the lottery. Ben Anderson, our Jazz insider for KSLSports.com, tweeted out, this is one of the biggest games of here's the injury report for one of the biggest games of the season. He didn't say one of the must-win games of the season. He said it was a big game for a very different reason.
Yes,
JJ.
and it was.
It was, and they got they knew the assignment. So there you go. Our program brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar the perfect protein bar. Let's jump into the cut here. Chandler Holt's going to join us here. He's one of our Utah Jazz insiders for KSLSports.com, and you can also hear him on the Jazz Notes podcast with Ben Anderson as well. So let's get to the cut right now.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And, of course, this portion of the show brought to you by Trajan Wealth, TRAJAN Wealth.com for all your trusted local needs in retirement. From the financial standpoint, it is Trajan Wealth. Chandler Holt, what's going on, Chandler? Thanks for being with us today, man.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Fantastic. Good. Jazz v. Pistons tonight. This is not the Pistons team from 2 years ago. The Jazz, of course, coming off the win on Friday against the Timberwolves and then the loss last night against the Pelicans. Where's this team right now, and how do you view these guys and what every night looks like from a standpoint of trying to put a lineup together?
Yeah, as you guys mentioned, the injury report from the game against the Pelicans was egregious to say the least, but it's looking a little bit better today. Not as many names out there. You said this isn't the Pistons team from 2 years ago. This isn't even the Pistons team from a month ago. They're 9-1 in their last 10, which is the second best in the NBA right now. And like you said, the Jazz are in lottery mode. The loss to the Pelicans was a huge one. It created a gap. So now they are one of the worst 3 teams in the NBA right now in terms of record, which means that they have the top odds at the top pick in the draft. And basically through the last 21 games of the year, they're just trying to hold on to one of those bottom 3 records.
Well, it's fitting the Pistons are in town here because watching what the Pistons have done over the last 3 or 4 years is similar to what the Jazz are doing right now, tearing it down to the studs and then, having to rebuild. But the Pistons went through a lot of pain. What can the Jazz learn from what the Pistons did to now being an Eastern Conference playoff team?
Well, the Pistons have their guy in Cade Cunningham. Right now, he is the favorite to be the most improved player. He's averaging 25 and 10. And basically after last year, they had the historically bad season, lost, 28, 29 in a row. And they basically said, we've had enough of this. They added Tobias Harris, they added Tim Hardaway Jr., and some other just good veteran presences in the locker room. And now they are making that next jump, like you said, to a top 6 team in the East. Of course, the Jazz are in a different position, much harder in the Western Conference. But I think that once they have their guy, which maybe they find in the upcoming draft, then everything will become a lot more clear for them.
This team has obviously a very different ask of them this time of year, but you also have what Will Hardy is always talking about, which is trying to make sure that these young guys are developing. And I think he mentioned too, look, we're asking these guys to work their butts off and to make sure that they carve out a place for themselves, not just on this team, but that they have this attitude every night to go out and compete. What are some of the storylines that you see from some of those guys that are these young dudes who are being asked to do a lot, even though it's a year that, people are going to look at and go, man, remember how terrible 2024, 2025 was? Who are some of these young guys that are still making a name for themselves right now and putting themselves in a spot to be long-term names for this Jazz team?
I would say the most obvious one right now, and maybe a surprise for a lot of people, is Isaiah Collier, 29th pick in the last draft. Since the new year, he's averaging 10.3 points and 8.4 assists a game. I don't know if he's exactly on track, but he could very well beat John Stockton's rookie record for assists in a season. So he has definitely been the biggest surprise. And then you're just looking at guys like Keontae George and Bryce Sensabaugh to just get more NBA minutes under their belt. Like, they are scoring guards, and scoring guards typically don't do well in their first few years in the NBA. So you're just wanting them to learn the game a bit more, take better shots, and then eventually that will translate into winning basketball. But a lot of these young players just aren't there yet. And you're looking at other guys like Kyle Filipowski and Cody Williams. For them, it might just be as simple as, like I said, getting more minutes, but also getting an NBA body. Cody Williams is pencil stick thin. So it's really simple for some of these guys. But like you said, in an otherwise forgettable season, these young players are learning every single night.
They got KJ Martin at the trade deadline, and fans love a guy that can finish strong and go up and do something electric, and he can do that. He brings a lot to the table. I guess the question is, does he bring something to the table beyond this season? What are your thoughts on what KJ Martin has done, and is it possible he could be in their plans long term?
Yeah, so I think KJ Martin and also the Jazz just signed Jaden Springer to a 3-year deal. Both of these guys are playing, and it isn't entirely obvious if they're going to be with the team long term, but at the very least, they are movable contracts. But specifically with KJ, he really complements what Keontae George and Isaiah Collier do. Both of them are quality passers, especially for being so young. And KJ Martin is shooting 80% on 2-point field goals because all of his 2-point field goals are at the rim. In the game against the New Orleans Pelicans, there was a highlight between Collier where he just, on a fast break, tipped it back to KJ and he threw it down. I feel like you could see a lot of that in the coming years.
Chandler Holt, he's one of our Utah Jazz insiders at KSLSports.com. You can read his byline there many times, also right there with Ben Anderson, and they also host the Jazz Notes podcast together. Chandler, what's the thing that when you, on a nightly basis, when you watch this team going out there, what's something that you've loved seeing develop in this year for this team?
Something that me and Ben have actually talked about that's kind of funny is the Jazz aren't, of course the players want to, but the Jazz don't necessarily want to win every game that they're playing, but they are much more competitive than, say, Washington or Charlotte, some of these other teams who are also losing most of their games. And it really comes down to Will Hardy and the system that he's running and the fact that even though the Jazz aren't the best team in the NBA by any means, they have a good system. And I think that should bring a lot of optimism to Jazz fans because once we get the right pieces, it could look a lot better.
Looking ahead, obviously we know what the Jazz are trying to do here. Makes a lot of sense. And Sunday night helped a lot. I think there's a game-and-a-half gap between them and the Pelicans now. Is the schedule tough for them? Is that going to make it easier to accomplish their goal of maximizing their lottery potential? Or is there more opportunities here to make fans nervous that are enjoying the tank?
So as it stands, the Jazz have the 11th toughest strength of schedule left in the NBA right now. Like I said, about 21 games left in the season. The good news is it's sort of a race between 1-2 and 3-4 when you're looking at the bottom of the NBA standings. Washington has been the worst team all year long. Charlotte has been especially bad as of late. And then, like you said, there's the Jazz and the Pelicans who are separated by a game and a half. The good news is the Jazz have played one less game than the Pelicans, so they can control their fate a little bit more. It's really tough to say. Like I said, I think that Washington and Charlotte may have the 1 and 2 spot locked down, but the gap that Jazz have over the Pelicans is a good thing to say the least.
We're watching senior night right now at Cameron Indoor, where Duke is taking on Wake Forest here, and they're, of course, the number 2 team in the country. They've only lost one game in the ACC this year. And Cooper Flagg is obviously a huge part of why that's the case. Is he still the consensus number 1 overall pick, or has that changed at all? Do you see anybody else making any moves to, or is it just going to be that what do you call it, JJ? The poop for Coop? Is that what
we're pooping?
We're pooping for Coop.
That's what we call it.
So is he still
Poop
the guy?
for Coop.
Is he still the guy that everybody wants to see in a Jazz uniform, or does that maybe shift around a little bit?
Cooper Coop, capture the flag. He is absolutely still the number 1 guy that you want to get in the draft. However, with that said, this isn't necessarily a Victor Wembanyama situation. Like, it isn't number 1 or bust. Although Flagg is heads above the rest of them, you really will not be mad at 1 through 4, maybe even 5 in this draft because you have Ace Bailey, you have VJ Edgecombe, and some of these other guys. But with that said, all of these teams really do want Cooper Flagg.
Yeah, let's be honest, Chandler. Though, if the Jazz don't win the lottery and get Cooper Flagg, and they somehow come out of this lottery with Con Knipple, you know what I mean? Like how this could go a completely different way, and that's the challenge with the NBA draft lottery is there's no guarantees here. What happens if things don't go their way in this lottery? What does that mean for the future of the Utah Jazz if they're not going to get that franchise player in this draft?
That's a really good question, and I think that this draft will be one of the major turning points for the Jazz probably since trading Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. I think the Jazz have been figuring out a lot of stuff. Of course, they had the time where they shipped out Mike Conley and some of those other players right after the big 2 trades. If you get Cooper Flagg, it's pretty simple. You start looking at how you can, 1, develop him, and 2, build around him. If you get the 2, 3, 4th guy in the draft, maybe you're sort of like, okay, this is a complimentary guy. How can we sort of formulate our roster with him in mind? And then, like you said, if you fall to 5 or lower, as it stands, I believe the Jazz can fall as low as 7. If that happens, this season will get looked at badly, negatively for way more reasons than just the terrible record.
And are we looking for a die for DeBonsa again next year? What are we doing? What are could it be 2 more years of pain?
Let me tell you this. Me and Ben talked about this on the podcast today. There's even a chance where you get Cooper Flagg, and who knows, maybe you ship out Larry Markkinen or Colin Sexton, some of these other veterans, and then you try to pair Cooper Flagg with maybe one of the Boozer twins or DeBonsa or whoever it may be. But it's pretty clear that for the past 2 years, the Jazz's sights have been on the future. And for a lot of fans, they're hoping that future is 1 to 2 years, but at the end of the day, especially with how the Western Conference is right now, it could be 2 to 4 instead of 1 to 2.
Chandler Holt, you can download the Jazz Notes podcast anywhere where fine podcasts are found. You can also go to KSLSports.com and click on the podcast tab and find it right there. Ben and Chandler do a phenomenal job of keeping up on these Jazz games and keeping you up to date as to where this team is. And Chandler, thanks for hanging out, man. We appreciate it. We're looking forward to having you in the future again.
Yeah, of course. It was great to talk to you guys.
Thanks, you go. Chandler Holt. What are we calling next year for DeBonsa?
Die for DeBonsa.
Crap your panza for DeBonsa. I wanted to stay with the potty humor theme.
How about dump for DeBonsa?
That's fine. I mean, I get it. I get what you're going for.
I don't know why we have to keep bringing poop back into this.
I think my option is way better, though.
Okay. All right. I was trying to avoid the potty stuff.
No, you weren't. You're the one who invented poop for Coop. Come on.
I did not invent that. I can't take credit for that.
I can take
I
credit.
sure love saying it, though.
I can take credit for crap your panza for the
You
panza.
did. You invented that one. That's all you. That's you need to take that to the patent office. File your paperwork right now.
Oh, my goodness.
Start printing the T-shirts.
It's poop again. That's where we need that drop. We turn into full-on 13-year-olds if it's the draft coverage and
man,
potty humor with your
that's
with your
the
local
pain
team.
of the Jazz.
You can rely on us.
Is responsible
you can
for
rely
this.
on us.
It's making us go absolutely crazy.
Detroit coming into town, and I don't know what this one's going to look like for this team. Obviously,
hey, you know what, Alex?
I mean, 9 out of 10 for
this should inspire Jazz fans.
It really should. That's exactly what I thought.
Last year, the Pistons were historically bad.
Right.
And now they have a chance to not only make the playoffs in the East, but win a playoff series. They're that good.
By the way, Cade Cunningham is 25.5, 9.5, and 5.
That's pretty good.
That's not bad. He averages almost 10 assists a game.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody thought that a guy like him, like out of college, Cade Cunningham was – because was he the number 1 overall guy?
Oh, yeah. No, he was number one overall. He was their number 1 overall.
He was their number 1 overall pick. And I'll tell you, he was this guy that you thought, yeah, he can score. But 10 assists in the NBA is insane. Like, to get to 10 assists a game is crazy because it takes a lot. And that's why it's even – I think it's awesome that Isaiah Collier is almost 7 a game. That's a guy who came right out of the gate and has learned how to dish the ball. And, man, Walker Kessler's almost 12.5 rebounds a game too.
Yeah, their leading scorers, Cade Cunningham at 25.2, Jaden Ivey, 17.6. Our good friend Malik Beasley, 16.7, former Jazzman. Tobias Harris, 13.8.
Hey, our guy
Tobias Harris is the 4th leading scorer on the Pistons.
Hey, our guy Bogey, he's out for the year, right? Didn't
he got released.
Oh, he got released. That's what it was. Hey, bring him back. Bring him back. Have him start hitting corner threes over here. Okay? Yeah, so the Jazz tonight versus the Detroit Pistons. I don't know if you saw this, but they are the Pistons are 9.5-point favorites in this one coming into Delta Center. I think that's part of the reason that, when Detroit has won 9 out of their last 10 games, think about it. I think you nailed it too, JJ. It's like if you're looking at a team like Detroit, 4 years ago, they were in this spot. So if you want to look at somebody, I know we always do the comp with Oklahoma City. I don't think Oklahoma City as a comp is reasonable. It just is. You can't plan for an SGA move. You can't.
Right.
You can't have. I know Sam Presti looks like a genius now, but the more real kind of comparison might be Detroit, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, we tear it down, and then we start with a number 1 overall pick, a number 3 overall pick, and just kind of grinding away at those at these first couple of years. And Cade Cunningham's first year was not good, by the way. When I say it wasn't good, they weren't good.
Should have won the lottery for Wembanyama. They didn't.
Right.
They should have won the lottery last year. They didn't. They have had, despite getting Cade Cunningham number 1 overall, they've been in the lottery multiple times, and they've had a lot of lottery pain.
Yeah.
It's not an easy fix. Getting a number 1 overall pick does not guarantee you anything. Being bad does not guarantee you everything or anything. It's hard, and losing's not fun, and there's some risk involved in it. And the Jazz, I hope things bounce their way in May when the lottery happens. But if it doesn't, how do fans react to that?
Yeah.
Because the odds are not in your favor.
No, 14% is bad.
14%.
It's bad. 14% for anything in life.
Less than 1 in 5.
That's not good.
Barely more than 1 in 10. It's not great that you're going to get exactly what you want. So you got to brace yourself for that. And the Jazz are going to have multiple, plans. You kind of just have to roll with it once it happens, but it's painful.
Jazz Pistons tonight. You're going to get a 6 o'clock pregame right here on the KSL Sports Zone. It's your radio home of the Jazz, and then 7 o'clock tip-off. So we'll come back. We've got more to talk about. Jazz Daily next, some NBA headlines as well. Stay right here, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on The Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. You know what that music means. This is the real Tesh Brothers edition of...
Yeah, I prefer this song with the lyrics.
You know when you like look at the lyrics on Apple Podcast or Apple Music or whatever? It's always fun to read those. Ba 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 basketball. Gimme the ball because I'm gonna dunk it. Woo.
Yeah.
And then repeat. Just keep going. All right?
Just the chorus.
There's
There's
nothing else. There's no hook at all. There's a little bit of a bridge when it changes. A
little bit. You an Apple Music guy?
I think that's yeah, what do you do?
Spotify.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Tim Cook owns me in every other aspect of my life, so I figured I'd throw some more money at him. Steve Jobs, may he rest.
I legit don't know which one's better. I got in on Spotify right from the get-go.
Yeah. I've
stuck with it.
I've done both, and I think because I have all the Apple things, I might as well just keep it going. And
Makes sense.
My dad worked at IBM for 35 years, so we grew up like hating Apple.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
But I also, when you're in school, in elementary school in what, in the 80s, you're playing a lot of Oregon Trail on those Apple IIs. You know what I mean?
Oh, great memories.
That green background.
I knew a lot about dysentery.
Listen,
because of that game.
Listen, nobody shot
horrible disease.
Nobody shot fake buffalo better than me. All right?
Cholera is a nasty
My favorite thing was when they'd be like, you shot 19 deer and 4 bison. You killed 7,000 pounds. You're able to take 14
pounds. What are you gonna do with
pounds.
all that meat?
But that's the thing, they're like, you were able to carry 14 pounds back to your wagon. You're like, okay.
You didn't care. I just
Thanks a lot.
slaughtered all these animals.
What am I going to do out here?
I'm just going to take the head so I can stuff it and put it on my wall.
That is in case we all make it.
Let the crows eat.
All right. All right. Let me see here. Oh, we got some stuff to give away? Dang right. You can call in right now, 801-575-ZONE, and it's your Chevy Strong Play of the weekend. If you heard it on DJ and PK, they give this out every Monday, and then every afternoon on a Monday, we give out what that play was, or rather, if you can guess what that play is and call us right now, we'll give you an Amazon gift card for your troubles. So with an impressive lineup of cars, trucks, and SUVs, no wonder people are switching to Chevy, your Rocky Mountain Chevy dealers. Give us a call right now, 801-575-ZONE. If you remember what the play was that DJ and PK pointed out, I'll give you a hint. You actually heard this play of the weekend already once on our show. So there you go. I knew this one, okay? So you can call in right now, 801-575-ZONE. It was the play of the weekend right here. All right, let me see here. So the Jazz, obviously, their comeback versus the Pelicans did not work out. That's a real shame. The Jazz, though, tonight, facing off against the Detroit Pistons, questionable is Colin Sexton. Questionable, or doubtful, rather, is John Collins. Out, Jordan Clarkson still out, Lauri Markkanen with the lower back. And so you're going to have a mishmash lineup again, JJ. Just what we're looking forward to.
I like how Oscar Tshiebwe.
Oh, Oscar Tshiebwe made it
has a career night.
Questionable.
He goes plus 25, and suddenly he's questionable. They're like, whoa, hey, Oscar, whoa.
Slow it down, brother. You'll be questionable until you can fall
Oscar.
in line here.
Somebody didn't tell you the assignment.
You were telling me to develop as a young player. Yeah, but come on.
Got to shut down Oscar Tshiebwe, or they're going to blow up this tank.
I love it.
He was awesome last night.
Jimmy Butler has a lawsuit apparently over unpaid rent and property damage. What on earth is going on in these cajillionaires' lives? You know what I mean? Apparently he has not paid $260,000 in rent and then left behind $127,000 in damages. Do you just automatically go straight to when Prince was renting out Carlos Boozer's house?
I can only imagine what Jimmy Butler's done.
I can only imagine the purple paint on the walls that had to be replaced.
Whatever residence he lived in.
Maybe one of the weirdest stories
Maybe he just liked putting art on his walls a lot.
One of the weirdest stories in sports history here in the Salt Lake area was Prince renting out Carlos Boozer's LA house
and painting it purple
and putting like the symbol of Prince, whatever the artist that shall not be named or whatever that his symbol was, purple shag carpet, purple walls. You knew what you were getting into when you had Prince sign a rental agreement. Everything was going to be purple. So I don't know if that's the deal with what's going on with Jimmy Butler, but it just sounds even weird to say Golden State Warriors forward Jimmy Butler has been sued. It just sounds so weird now, right?
It is strange.
So, I don't know.
$127,000
in damage. He owes $260 in rent, which is, hold on.
Wow.
I think that's one game paycheck, right? We did this not that long ago, and I think it was like $238,000 a game.
Well, he got fined. He's late on
right.
rent.
he got suspended for a few games without pay. Of course he's behind on rent.
Oh, my gosh. Can you imagine renting an apartment and having a $130,000 security deposit? That's what he has.
Are you kidding?
He has a $100,000. So the plaintiff is seeking payment of $257,282 and the right to keep Butler's $130,000 security deposit.
Oh my.
Where are you living that you need a $130,000 security deposit?
The rest of us are
I would love to see it.
The rest of us are like on Airbnb paying like the $130 for the security deposit, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'll just pay the cleaning fee.
I'd rather just go to a hotel at this point. I'm not doing the Airbnb fee thing. Sorry.
Oh my goodness. So there you go.
The home was built on a canal and also has a pool.
Yeah, it has its value.
Its value is $10 million.
$10 million.
It's only 5,300 square feet.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is $130,000 a month is a steal.
And only 6 bathrooms. Russell Wilson would never live there.
Oh my goodness. So that's basically 2 months' rent, right? $250,000 plus the $130,000 security deposit. That's honestly 2 games of game paychecks.
$130,000 a month for rent
or woman. Just pay these folks. Come on, give them their money back.
World? I don't live in that world.
I think we know what kind of a world it is for these guys.
Wow.
Because he's $48 million this year, right?
Yeah, he's
$48.5 million.
He makes big money.
Yeah, so I think he'll be all right. All right, we'll have a little bit of a preview here for you. We'll have our best and worst, and then we'll give you our thoughts of Jazz v. Pistons coming up in just a few moments here. That's going to be top of the hour. More to go right around the corner. Stay here, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Wrapping up the hour with our picks for the best and worst moments on today's show. As JJ and Alex want to hear your best and worst of the day.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Kirry, Jeremiah Jensen. We got the Utah Jazz coming up here at 6 o'clock. Your pregame about to fire up. This portion of the show brought to you by Doug Smith Family of Dealerships, Dodge, Ram, Chevy, Subaru, Kia, and now Mitsubishi in the family of Doug Smith Dealerships. JJ, as we said, available tonight is Colin Sexton with the left ankle.
Oscar Tshiebwe is available.
Oh, Oscar. Oh, okay. I was just wondering. All right. Well,
are they sure they know what they're doing with Oscar? He might score 30 tonight.
Well, I told you that
the Pistons are going to win no matter what, so they're good.
They are good. They've won 9 of their last 10, and they are on the push to be even better to get themselves in a spot in the playoffs here,
which should give Jazz fans hope.
Yeah,
there's a future ahead.
What are they in the Eastern? What are they in the Eastern Conference?
I think they were 6th last time I checked. Let me double check real quick.
So they're solidly in the playoffs, and so they're going to be. They are right
solidly in 6th. They're actually only a game back of the Pacers for 5th, and only a game back of the Bucks for 4th.
Did you see the Lakers over the weekend became for the first time this year? Now they're the number 2 seed in the West.
Makes me sick.
Shocker.
I want to throw up. They're tied with the Nuggets. They're actually ahead on winning percentage.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
So, Jazz tonight.
Here's Luka. Have fun.
And we already talked about this Jazz team, tanking or whatever you want to call it, or they know the assignment, all these things. The reality is that you still go to these games, and this team plays phenomenally well. I mean, here's the thing, too.
Last night's game was enjoyable. No, it was entertaining.
And I'll tell you what's going to happen tonight. You're going to see if Colin Sexton's available and plays, like he's going to play his butt off. You're going to see Walker Kessler play really hard. This Detroit Pistons team is just going to be better. I mean, that's just where it's going to be.
Yep.
And that works out for all sorts of purposes to be able to see your guys develop. I don't think anybody hates the idea of Isaiah Collier just getting more and more minutes of being able to dish that ball around, bringing Keontae George off the bench and getting him some nice minutes and getting him to develop. All these things are all positives. And, by the end of the night, you're probably going to see a Detroit Pistons team who wants to do a lot better and wants to see themselves win as many games as possible, and the Jazz are not in that space right now. They're looking to get their guys developed, and this is a great game to do it. So There you go. JJ, we'll see you on TV tonight, brother.
Sounds good.
All right, more to go around the corner. The Utah Jazz, of course, firing up your pregame right now. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Stay with us.